Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about the eclipse a little bit. The eclipse has happened, yes, and I know there's other stuff coming down the lane, and part of my whole entire philosophy is to have this a little bit more slow version of astrology and not to just like jet off to the next thing right away, especially because this Aries and Libra axis situation that we have going on with this eclipses is what's been being built up to for quite a while. Now, the eclipse doesn't mean that something happened in that moment, right? Astrology doesn't work like that. It's a clock and it takes its time, but that is such a significant celestial event that it's an easy marker. It's an easy marker. And what's so interesting about astrology in general is that it incorporates all of the archetypes, incorporates all the parts of life, it incorporates all the big themes. The last set of eclipses we had were in Scorpio and in Taurus, of course, and of course where Taurus is going to get lit up with the Jupiter and Uranus conjunction coming up. But that whole idea was about death and rebirth and how these things that must, go to be decomposed are what feed the new life and this cyclical thing about life and death. Now we're in this Aries and Libra axis, which is all about the I am and the we are, and how that's working as one thing, and how to balance that, how to balance finding yourself, your truth, your individual viewpoint, and doing that through interacting with others. Now, what seems to be happening is a lot of people can't handle dissenting or oppositional viewpoints or oppositional truths. And what I want to express is that the closer you get to your own truth, your own understanding of who you are and what your whole perspective is, that won't bother you as much anymore. There's a lot of freedom in the fact that you can accept that there are multiple truths, there's multiple ways to see the truth, because we're all part of this one thing, right? We're all this little holographic projections from one thing, but that one thing is trying to understand all things. And the way to do that is through these costumes that we come in, right? These parts that we play, these differences that we have, the experiences we have, the truths that we discover. And the only way to do that is through interaction with your environment, with other people, and that helps to differentiate who you are. A lot of people went and saw this eclipse.
And we now have a partial eclipse in the United States of America. I can see it. It's going in and out of the clouds.
They were visually imbued by it.
Right there. Do you see that darkness? It just got really dark. We are close.
The photons are basically interacting through your eyes. They're entering your brain and you're being experiencing that thing.
Oh my gosh, we got it! We got it! Oh my gosh, it's just so amazing. That was incredible.
Now, I did not get to see the totality of the solar eclipse or anything like that, but I did find a really cool article by this lady from space.com, and I wanted to read to you her experience with it. But before I do that, I wanted to show you what this eclipse looked like from space. The first one is from NASA's Deep Space Climate Observatory, and it just shows how the moon's shadow races across North America. And to me, like, I've watched this a few times now, and to me, it almost looks like a bird that's flapping its wings across that space in that time. What do you think it looks like? It's kind of fascinating to watch. It's almost hypnotic. It looks like a bird to me, though. The next one's from a Starlink satellite that captured the footage of the moon shadow. And to me, it looks like an iris in the eyeball of a blue eye. And I was like, oh, hello, looking at you. Starlink, how you doing? So anyway, thought that was cool. All right, that helps. I have to put my glasses on a little bit so I can read this to you, but I found it really touching what she said about the eclipse. Since April 8th, when I witnessed the total eclipse of the sun, I've been feeling progressively more melancholy. It isn't because I was underwhelmed or because my vantage point wasn't ideal or because of some depressing epiphany I had while watching the moon turn our planet's star into a wispy white halo. I've been struggling to find the right words to explain my sullenness all week. What I realized is that the 2024 solar eclipse felt so intrinsically dreamlike, confusing, and surreal that the more time passes from those few minutes of totality, the more my body accepts it as truly a dream, and it feels sad to distance myself so quickly. We usually get to have at least a few months, maybe even a few years, before yesterday becomes cemented in the past. I'm not quite sure I had a few hours. The eclipse has already started to feel like a childhood memory that may have been concocted after watching a few old home videos, a memory attached to one vivid visual, maybe two, and a deep cradle of emotions. The image of totality is burned in my brain.
Holy moly!
There it is.
But my mind was scattered during these moments because I was panicked about where to focus my eyes and what to think about, what's important enough to be in the same room as an event most call once in a lifetime. I was overthinking it. One of my grammatically incorrect notes in app, Scribbles, literally says, I didn't know where to look, what to do with myself.
I think we're counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, we got it!
The result is I have only jumbled thoughts swiftly merging into a single echo. On April 8th, soon after it was announced that the eclipse had begun, I didn't rush out of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway press room where I was sitting to catch a glimpse of the sun. There was no haste. I've even previously written about how I mostly classify myself as an eclipse cynic. I knew it would be cool, even existential, but I wasn't sure I needed to watch a bit of space traffic to be emotionally moved. I'm the type of person who can be emotionally moved by anything philosophical, so why would I need to physically see an eclipse? I already cared about the concept. When I put on my Cerulean Warby Parker solar eclipse glasses and peered at the sun, I have to be honest, I thought I was going to be right about my skepticism. The sun looked very interesting, there's no doubt about that. I even texted our space.com group chat saying that I might wish the sun always looked like this, like a bitten cookie, as my father described it in a parallel text thread I had with him and my mother. It did. It resembled an orange ginger snap with a chunk knocked out of the shape of someone's dentition. I wouldn't say I felt a profound shift, but as the clock continued ticking and totality began to approach, I grew more aware of my breathing. It was alarming. I did not expect it.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing! Guys, it's amazing. I just can't even describe to you how amazing it is.
Surrounded by thousands of people on a racetrack who were involuntarily shouting with glee as a crescent sun slipped into a sliver, I could sense the earth turning. I could notice that we weren't standing on top of our planet, but rather were stuck to it somewhere on the side due to the curvature of space and time and earth itself. The crisp wind flowing through my hair started feeling like streams of individual molecules. The temperature dropping made me think about thermodynamics.
We dropped 6 degrees since before we started going into about halfway through partial. I am blown away.
I wondered where the birds were. A guy standing next to me who had just asked me for advice about his solar eclipse glasses in a serious tone was screaming, "Bro, look at the sky."
Oh, look at that! That is so awesome! Look at that!
I almost cried, and I didn't know if it was because of the eclipse or if it was because of myself. Suddenly, I couldn't see anything through my lenses anymore. The sun was gone. Someone nearby yelled, "Take them off!" to no one in particular. I did, and I saw the totality. I've concluded that as my pictures do not do totality justice, neither do my words.
Yes! We did it! We did it! And our celebratory egg cream cheers, totality!
It would be like trying to explain what a new color looks like, or attempting to equate a photo of a sunset to a magenta streaked sky, and that's why I have to end my story here. I needed to see this in person because it's something that language can't quite capture.
2, well, there you go, Diamond. Woo! Boom! Wow!
There was something out there that seemed like it should not exist. Imagine seeing the moon for the first time after decades of living under an empty night sky. It's very visceral to see such a change in the cosmic scene with only your eyes, as though you've traveled to an alien planet with a cold black sun. They were right, whoever they were.
That's the sun and the moon right there.
Another one of my Notes app thoughts is a lyric from Father John Misty. I'm not surprised I wrote it down. It's one of my favorite lyrics ever, and I think it can be interpreted in many different ways. Maybe love is just an economy based on resource scarcity. In this case, it made me think about how the rarity of a solar eclipse, a rarity that owes itself in part to the sheer coincidence of our sun and moon appearing the same size from our perspective on Earth, is why my memory of this experience is so treasured and one I wish would not fade away. It's why it had the power to make me give the sun space in my mind next to the spot I've always reserved for the moon. It would probably be better if we had more love in the world. I don't believe love needs to be an economy based on resource scarcity. And I've always taken that lyric as a sarcastic point about how we've come to view love. But maybe it's best we don't have more total or solar eclipses. My cynicism might have actually held true if the solar eclipse market was saturated. Yet solar eclipses will remain rare. Therefore, so will the way they make us feel. Maybe it was never purely about the sun or the moon, and that's where my mistake was in thinking these events aren't really worth the hype. Maybe it was just about resource scarcity and a human desire to see the abnormal in such a way that we become aware of our existence. I don't think that's a bad thing, to be clear. It's simply perhaps why a total solar eclipse is considered so remarkable. Indeed, the one I saw was remarkable. So if you would, please accept this article as my formal apology for being an eclipse hater. Monisha Revasetti, Astronomy Channel Editor, Space.com. What I like most about her story is that she took in that experience and felt the astronomy, which is the feeling is the astrology. It's the interaction of space and the human experience. And she is not calling it astrology. I'm not saying she's calling it astrology, but what she's experiencing is that. She's the feeling of being alive in that moment. And it's very Aryan, right? It's like that push into something new. What is this? This is so unusual. It's so exciting. It's so fresh. And that is that Aries push that's so strong, and that's what's powerful. It's going on right now. We're still in the midst of a Mercury retrograde too, so rethinking all of this. What happened? What was that all about? Even if you didn't get to physically experience it, just watching a video of it. There was a really cool video, I'll share it in the description below. It's a music video. A lot of people did cool stuff during this. I mean, total eclipse of the sun, the last one that happened, I don't know if they made so many interesting content choices.
Oh, this is even cooler than last time. Look at that.
But now the content and is so much bigger, the YouTube thing and Instagram, blah, blah, all that stuff. But there are people that did music videos during the solar eclipse, and you just see the whole sky dim down to black and then come back to light. And just so many things that we can experience as a group. One thing that's missing, and that's been missing for a while in our humanity, is shared experiences. There's still a few that happen, but I think a solar eclipse and things that are unmissable like that, they become part of our shared experience. And this is how we find ourselves. Anytime we interact with others, interact with the world, we can get closer to our own sphere, our own ideas of what's true. I watch NDE videos too. I have a thing for that. I've always been interested in near-death experience stories, and I watched one this morning that really touched my, I don't know, what do you want to call it? My heart, my soul, my spirit. It was this guy named Andy. It happened to him in 1955, so he was an older gentleman. And it was 2 days before his high school graduation. And he was at a party at a lake in Lake Michigan or something, so it was cold. And long story short, basically he ended up not being, it was too cold, and he cramped up and he drowned. Anyway, he had this full-on, nonstop consciousness of the entire experience, where he left his body, he saw his body, he's like, yeah, there's my body. He just didn't really, he was fine with it. He was fine with everything that was happening with what happened to him. He went into the space of ecstasy, and he found the light, and then, it's a pretty cool story what happened to him. And then eventually he just told that he has to go back to his body. He doesn't want to. And eventually he realizes he has to. And so he wakes up there and they said, what happened? What happened to you? What does it feel like to drown? You know, these are a bunch of 18-year-old kids probably. And what was it like? And he said, then I told my first big lie and I said, I don't remember anything. And so in 1955, basically, there were not a lot of documented cases or discussion about near-death experiences. And everything that happened to him, he said it didn't match with what he was taught in church or what he was told. And it just didn't line up. And so he thought basically he was crazy. It wasn't until 25 years later where he was at the airport coming home from a business trip and he saw the book Life After Life, I think it was. And he bought it, didn't even look at what it was. He just bought it and got home, put the kids to bed, told his wife, you know, I'll come in a little while. I want to read my book for a bit. And so he read it from cover to cover. He never made it to bed. He just stayed up until the morning reading this book. And it was such an incredible release for him to have read that book because it validated everything that he had experienced. He went from feeling like alone and crazy and something he was rejecting to completely being able to accept himself in his experience. So how is that for an I am, we are situation? He had a physical experience that he went through that was profound. It was incredible, but he could not share it with anybody, so he couldn't incorporate it into himself. He couldn't experience it fully because he couldn't share it. And it wasn't until he could share it through reading that book that he could feel like he could start talking about it. And he says he's talked about it thousands and thousands of times, and every time he does, he feels exactly that same feeling that he felt. It's like there, it's visceral. The thing about the Aries Libra axis is the power is in getting strength in yourself and understanding your perspective through interacting with others. And this big, beautiful eclipse that we had is a way we can continue to connect, that we've shared that experience, even if we didn't see it. It's something that is broad and vast, and it's giving us a we are experience. I would love to hear your eclipse stories if you want to share them with me. I also have finished my newsletter, The Excellent Six. I've completed that with 12 volumes. I'm coming up with some ideas for the new version of it though. So I'm not done with newslettering. I loved it. I mean, I've just enjoyed so much the connection that we make that is not through another algorithm. And so that's why I really enjoy the newsletter. So there's a new one brewing and try to keep it fresh and real because that's just the way I am. So anyway, yeah. I like you just the way you are, and I will talk to you soon, okay?